Hi, my name is Rebecca Thompson Hitt. I'm the founder and executive director of the Consciously Parenting Project, and this is the Consciously Parenting Podcast. We're going to be talking with parenting visionaries, professionals, and parents to guide you and inspire you to be the most connected parent you can be. We began our conversation with Pam Leo last week, and so we begin podcast number 2 with a continuing conversation with Pam Leo about storytelling, reading, and singing for connection, and what it looks like day to day and at different ages and stages. And so I wanted to shift a little bit now and talk about, we've been talking about why this is so important. We're growing our kids' brains. We're making these times, these oases in our day to really connect with our kids. And so I wanted to talk a little bit more about what this looks like day to day. What are the strategies? What can this look like? What does it look like at different ages and stages?
Oh, that is so important because it's never going to look the same from one day to the next. When they're little infants, if we sing to them every time we change their diaper, every time we put them in the bath, if we have little songs that go with every caregiving activity, is one of the great ways to share and, prepare the brain for literacy. There's the program called RIE, which is RIE, which stands for Resources for Infant Educators, which was started by Magda Gerber. And there are many principles of that parenting philosophy, but the one that I most love is the idea of making caregiving the repetitive caregiving activities that we do every day, diaper changing, feeding, bathing, dressing, making those connection times, like not just doing them robotically or just, doing them, but really focusing in with children when we do those things with them and having that be connection time, because we're going to do those things every day, multiple times a day anyway. And if we just add a little bit more attention to it, it becomes connection time. And if we take it even one step further and add singing to those different caregiving activities, then we also have literacy time. So for the same amount of time and effort that you're going to spend anyway, this excites me to no end because I think it's one of the most powerful parenting tools I've ever thought of, that you really get 4 benefits from that. One is very rapidly children begin to associate those songs with those activities. So you provide predictability, which is so soothing to a baby's nervous system. So, when they hear head, shoulders, knees, and toes, they know they're going to get their diaper changed. And so it kind of calms things down and makes that transition a little easier. And then as you're singing to them, you're looking in their eyes, you're connecting with them. So then you're getting the benefit of connection. And then as you sing those songs to them, they're getting rhythm, rhyme, repetition, vocabulary. They're getting all those pre-literacy skills just by us singing to them while we change the diaper we're going to change anyway. And then the 4th benefit is that we accomplish those tasks with just more joy, more love, more fun, just by adding a song to it. So, that's what it would look like for the parent of a baby. As they get a little bigger and they're toddlers and, we're still going to be doing many of those same caregiving activities, but then they begin to like books with flaps and, books that you can interact with. And they begin to learn that this is how you turn the pages, and this is upside down, and this is right side up, and this is back and front, all from just snuggling up. And toddlers are busy, so, the recommendation is that we read aloud to children a minimum of 15 minutes a day. And if you're reading a chapter book to an older child, that's probably going to happen all at one sitting. But if you have a toddler, you might read 5, 3-minute books in a day. It's going to look very different because they're so busy. And it's so important that we don't think we've got to read every word page to page, cover to cover, because that's not how toddlers handle books. They want to chew on them and drop them and, build towers out of them. So everything has to be okay with toddlers of how we do books.
I just got to say, that was one of the things that frustrated me when I was trying to read to my toddler, no, we have to finish this page before we go to the next page, no. And he's like, we skipped 3 pages. I went, no. And
that's our conditioning. That's kind of our school conditioning, that you go page to page to page to page.
Yep.
And so, we can just totally disregard that. And just, in a way, books will almost be like toys to toddlers. Mm-hmm. And along with that, they'll start to see how they work, that we turn pages and sometimes we lift flaps or touch fuzzy things. But so I would definitely recommend interactive books for toddlers, and then as they get to be, 2 and 3, and it depends on, how much exposure they've had to books and how much they relate to them. There's a little girl that I know who loves books so much. She's 2, but even before she was 2, I'd say the year between 1 and 2, instead of taking a lovey to bed with her, she would always pick the book she was going to take to bed with her. And she would just sit and turn the pages, and she would read to their cat. And, it was just amazing. So they do. They will pick their level of participation with books. And that also makes me think of another thing. As adults, we tend to put books on shelves because that's a very organized way of keeping them, but it doesn't make them terribly accessible to children. So to think about making your home a very literacy-friendly environment by having a basket of books in the bathroom and one in the kitchen and the bedroom and the living room and in a bag of books in the car, so that there's just always books available and where children can reach them. So for the very young children, we could make the board books are where they can reach them, and the books that would rip can be up on the shelves, and we get them out when we're sitting with them. But they should have the books that they can play with and build towers with and, run as cars and however they want to use them.
I think that just makes me think a lot about, one of the things, and even, going back to my own parenting, when I wasn't very good at, okay, now we're going to sit and we're going to read. But I wasn't very good at kind of following their lead, like when the books really did need to be built into a tower. And I think that's a good reminder that one of the biggest goals here is not, okay, I'm going to, make sure you get all these words in and that, we're growing your brain right now. But that we're connecting, and that in that process of connecting with them, we're growing their brain.
Right. Yes, absolutely. That if we can join them in building the tower out of the books, then we're connecting. We're not connecting when we're saying, no, we must read this page.
Exactly.
That's our agenda, and it really needs to be their agenda for them to benefit from it. It's like that's where they are with the book right now. So I agree with you. I struggled with that as well, and I'm sure many parents listening to this will be able to relate to that. And it's kind of nice to just be given permission to just enjoy books in whatever way we do it. I mean, I think it's very cool that there are now bathtub books, that are plastic, and you can have a book floating in the bath.
Right. Yep.
And then as they get, 3, 4, 5, then the fun really, amps up, because then you can make the stories just come alive. I do an article for our local parenting paper, Parent and Family, called Recipes for Reading. And what that's always about, I feature a certain book, and we just talk about ways of making that book come alive. And I recently read that every book will either be for a child a mirror, because it will be about just how their life is. Oh my gosh, we do that too. Or a window into a totally other culture, like, wow, look at how they celebrate their holidays. And so, there's just so many opportunities. I have my 4-year-old granddaughter once a week, and we do a thing that we call Letter of the Week. And our activities for that day will be centered. Like, we just had Bee Week, and, we blew bubbles, and we had blueberries, and it's just a lot of fun. And so I always pick books that go with that week. And the one I happened to pick, she goes to a Jewish preschool, even though our family is not Jewish. It's the best one in the area, so that's the one she goes to. And they do Shabbat on Fridays, and one of the songs that they sing starts, Bim, Bam, Bim, 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 Bam. Well, I found a book that's called Bim, Bam. And so, of course, for Bee Week. And it was about a brother and sister named Bim and Bam. But at the end of the book is the song. And she knows it because she's been there for a couple of years, and they sing it every Friday, and I know it from being there with her. And I just felt the connection between us when we got to the end of the book, and we both started singing that song that we both knew. I thought, wow, this is just such an example of the connection that can come through books and singing both, and especially when it's combined. So that was just a delightful experience that we had. And to me, again, just exemplified how strong that connection was, because she kind of looked at me like, Grandma, you know those words too. And we just sang it together. It was wonderful.
That's so sweet.
It was just wonderful.
Yeah, that just makes me think about, one of the things that we're going for here and our conversation here, we hope that you're taking from it is that this isn't meant to be one more thing, that it's really something that you can incorporate into the things that you're already doing and finding the way that it feels good for you. I hear so much joy as you're talking about, the bim bam in the song and, singing it with your granddaughter and that shared joy and connection. And that right there is what we're talking about.
It is, and I'm so glad that you said that, because it reminds me of the quote I shared with you that Mem Fox, who wrote the book Reading Magic and has authored many, many wonderful children's books, but Reading Magic is a book about reading for adults and is one of my all-time favorites. And one of the things she says in that book that is just delightful to me, she said, when I say to parents, read to children, I don't want them to hear medicine. I want them to hear chocolate. I think that addresses what you were just saying, that it shouldn't be one more thing added to our list. And so it's actually a way almost to create one less thing, because typically I think parents do read a bedtime story, and it's a way of turning that they're going to do anyway into the special connection time that children need every day. It's just a way of, kind of getting two benefits from one activity. You get the benefit of the read aloud, which is good for their brain growing and for their literacy, but you turn that into your connection time. And, I think you were saying when we talked about this too, that when you were reading the Harry Potter books, it gave you this whole other language, the language of the Harry Potter world that you now shared with your children. And that happens when we share stories, and especially when we share books with children, that there will be references to something, and that becomes our little word that we know what that means. And it does it. It's like it creates a family language. So one of the things that I am such a huge fan of is listening to audiobooks with children. So especially in the car, turning car time, into some special family time, that when we listen to audiobooks with children, we share in that story with them, and we have those little jokes and, little things that happened in the book that we can then refer to later. And it's an instant reconnect. When we refer to something we shared earlier in a book, later, it's that instant reconnect. It takes us right back to where we were when we first shared that, whatever the word or phrase was. So it really is a way of giving parents more benefit for less time, I think.
And I think that's what parents need. I mean, so many of us have a to-do list that's just absolutely ridiculous. There's too many things. We can't possibly do them all in one day anyway. And so when so many parents hear, oh, now you want me to read, now you want me to read more, now you want me to... No, and I think that's part of the shift that we're talking about here, is that this is just a way that you get like 4 for 1, like you said. There's so many things, so many benefits, and so many things that you can do that are just incorporated into you're already doing.
Right. And
so
for the same amount of time that you're going to spend anyway, and just adding that little bit of extra effort to that same amount of time, you just get that cascade of benefits. And it's just the child benefits, we benefit as parents, and the relationship benefits. It really is just such a win-win-win all the way down the line.
Yay!
Yay! At last, something. I know. Right? I was reading an article actually recently about this, and she was saying that about how, it's just such a great parenting tool. I mean, we often talk about this parenting tool or that parenting tool. That singing with children is a great parenting tool, because instead of saying, all right, time to pick up your toys now, you can sing the Barney song of clean up, everybody clean, and they know exactly what's expected without any kind of, we have to do this, or, if you have a getting out the door song or a bath song, you just start singing that little song. And one that she mentioned that just made me die laughing, my granddaughter Greta and I often listen to music in the car, and we love the song I'll Fly Away, which is a gospel song. And this mom in her article mentioned that when, she's just sort of, the kids have just taxed her beyond her patience limit, she'll just start singing I'll Fly Away as a way of just kind of mentally escaping the situation without leaving. And I just fell down laughing when I read it. I thought, that is great. If we can even not just sing to our children, but have songs of our own that just kind of like take us away. Right. So I love that. Yeah.
So let's talk about older kids, and then we're going to move on to how. So, what does it look like with older kids?
My vision of it with older children, and my experience of it with older children, is that, so often we can feel like we're not really part of their world, that times have changed so much and they're interested in so many things, or styles of music, or, things we're just not as, knowledgeable about, that it gives us a way. I mean, literature is so timeless. It gives us a way to go to a place that we both can know about, that we're both comfortable in. And so just like you reading the Harry Potter series, that gave you a place to go to together that you were both enjoying. And I just think that is one of the really important things about reading aloud with older children. And I know that often children will even pretend they can't read, so the parents won't stop reading to them if they know they can read. Right. And for them to be totally assured. I even read something once about, someone said, when I come home from college, I want my mom to read to me at night. Oh. That it doesn't end as a way of connection. And to even further than that, my mom is 82. And I will read aloud to her, and she loves it. And I sometimes I'll come home with a new children's book or something, and I'll take it over and read it to her because she's never heard it. It's a new one. And it just, when there was a time when she had to be in rehab, and I would go over and read her a bedtime story, and her roommate loved it. So I mean, it really is timeless. Our need and love for stories, and not necessarily always written stories. It can be the oral tradition that we tell stories. I mean, I love to tell my grandson that whenever I smell spearmint, I am just transported to my granddad's farm. When I was about 7 years old, there was a little bridge over a stream, and I would spend endless hours putting something in on one side and running around to the other side and watching it come out. And growing next to that bridge was spearmint. And so whenever I smell that smell, I am instantly transported to that place in my childhood where that happened. And so then, I think it helps them look at their own childhood and think, oh, what things are special to me that way? And I'll say, what stories do you think you'll tell your children about when you were a child, or, when you learned to ride a bike? Or, I'll tell them the story of when I learned to ride a bike. And, we all have those childhood stories, and our children just love to hear them. And they especially love to hear them when we aren't in the best light, when we were naughty, or we made a mistake, or we really messed up. And somehow, and whatever the consequence for that was, they love those stories. So, and we all have them. So there's, they're great to share with children at every age.
Yeah. And I'm just, even as you told the story about the spearmint, I just felt my whole body relax. I just wanted you to keep telling the story, and I I think that that's a really good reminder that that's what the experience is like for our kids when we share things like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
My name is Rebecca Thompson Hitt, and I've been talking with Pam Leo of Connection Parenting. So next week we're going to be talking about what does storytelling, reading, and singing as connection look like? What else can we do in addition to sitting down with a book? There's so many ways to connect, and we're going to be talking about more of them. For more information, please visit the Consciously Parenting website, consciouslyparenting.com.